Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. You must pursue justice with justice. With these three words in Parshat Shoftim, this week's Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu transforms our understanding of the foundational principles of Jewish life. To put this in context for a moment, from Har Sinai, the Jewish people were told, "V'atem tiyu li mamlechas kohanim v'goy kodosh," that we're going to become a nation of sanctity, of Kedusha. That is the crucial word, describing the future of the Jewish people, whether it's Kedusha in the type of food we eat, or the Kedusha of Shabbos and Yom Tov, the Kiddush, or whether it's Kiddushin under the Chuppah, the Kedushas Hazivu, the Kedusha of family life. All different types of Kedusha are crucial to the whole of Sefer Vayikra, and that seems to be the hallmark defining the Jewish people until Parshat Shoftim. And there we're told, wait a minute, Kedusha is really half the story. Unless it is wedded to and combined with tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, nothing's going to work. In fact, the Pasuk continues, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, you must pursue justice. L'man tichye v'yorashta es haaretz. It's a sine qua non, it's a necessary prerequisite for inheriting the land of Israel, settling the land of Israel, and creating the Am Hashem. The Am Hashem is not only a nation of Kedusha, it's a nation of integrity. It's a nation of justice and of yashrus and of the pursuit and the application of justice. In fact, about 900 years later, when Yeshayahu HaNavi, in the first chapter, Chazon Yeshayahu, is dramatically and sadly predicting the downfall of the Beis HaMikdash and the destruction of the Churban and the Golus, he says, why did it happen? It didn't happen because you failed in a life of Kedusha. That's not why it happened. It failed because you lost the tzedek. Dirshu heitev, ashu dirshu mitzvah, limdu heitev, dirshu mishpat. He says, what you need to do to solve the problem is not karbonos. Lama li rov zivchecha. I don't need your karbonos if you're living a life without justice and without integrity. And this is really, and when he has a vision of Yemos HaMashiach, or a vision of the redemption of the Jewish people, it's v'oshiva shovtayich kevorishona, that I will return to you the judges who can administer tzedek. So here we have, in a sense, a not just another mitzvah alongside all the other mitzvot, but a cornerstone of what Judaism is about. It's a combination of Kedusha, of the sanctity, which gives us a sense of the transcendent, at Bein Odom Lamokom, that we are connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu every day of our life, with all our tefillas and our Shabbos and Chagim, but at the same time, we are preserving Bein Odom Lachaveiro, the way people are treated. And Yeshaya there says, particularly the Yosom, the Almona, meaning even orphans and widows, meaning people who have no wealth, no status, should be able to get justice. And Yerushalayim itself is called by Yeshaya Ir HaTzedek, that ultimately Yerushalayim should be the gold standard in the world for the preservation of justice and integrity and the administration of justice. And that's why the Sanhedrin is placed on the Har HaBayis and the Lishkas HaGozis next to the Beis HaMikdash, because it's that combination between the Kedusha of the Kohanim and the Mishpat of the Sanhedrin which really creates that formula on which Judaism is based. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof really elevates Klal Yisrael to a new level, not just preserving our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but at the same time emphasizing the V'asisa HaYoshar V'Hatov, not just the Tov, which is Bein Odom Lamokom, but the Yoshar, which is the Yashrus and integrity of Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof. And with that, this Parsha really creates for us a whole different Jewish life, a whole different concept of the future of Klal Yisrael and what Yemos HaMashiach and the redemption really looks like. In fact, in our daily Shemona Esrei, one of our brachas is Hashiva Shevteinu Kevorishona, V'yoatzenu Kevatchila, which is a reference to this week's Parsha, that the Shoftim should be involved in Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof. Now let's spend a few minutes looking a bit more closely at these two words, Tzedek, Tzedek. Why not Tzedek, Tirdof? Why not just pursue justice? Why Tzedek, Tzedek? Who is this pasuk addressed to? Rashi, interestingly, says it's addressed to the litigants, to the people who are coming to hear their case heard Holach acha bezdin yofe. Don't be lazy and just take any old bezdin. Look for the best bezdin, the best judges to hear your case. That's what Rashi says. The Sforno says it's addressed to the people in the society who are going to appoint judges. Make sure you appoint judges who are able to get beyond their own personal prejudices and bias, who are not influenced by honor and other considerations, and are able best to give judgments based on pure tzedek. What's interesting here, though, is the Netziv, in his Hamek Dova, he says that tzedek, he follows a Gemara in Sanhedrin, who says that the Pasuk is addressing judges themselves, that when judges are engaged in rendering a ruling on any particular dispute, they've got two options in front of them. One is tzedek, which is the din, to look up the Choshen Mishpat, look up the halacha, Baba Basra, Baba Metzia, find what the halacha is and administer the din. And the second tzedek, says the Netziv, is pshara. So we tend to think that pshara means compromise. It's closer to what we call today mediation. In other words, to find a solution which both parties can live with, both parties can accept, and it won't be a clear winner and loser. It'll be something which, going forward, there can be, as the last Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omeid, al hadin, al ha'emes, al hashalom. A combination of din, of absolute justice, with also shalom, finding a way that people can continue to live with each other, all based on emes. That's really the ultimate goal of every judge in every case. And you should choose the judges accordingly. What's interesting here is that the next three psukim, right? Lo sate mishpat, lo sakir ponim, lo tikach shochad, really give us a very, very brief but immensely powerful instructions about what justice is meant to be. And this is really an idea which the Western world only picked up millennia later, only in the 1700s, with the Bill of Rights in 1689 in the UK Parliament, and later on Jefferson and Madison writing the United States Constitution, and Montesquieu in the French Revolution. They instituted the idea of an independent judiciary, not a judiciary appointed by the king or by the aristocracy on a position of his wealth, which has been the case throughout human history. Suddenly the judges have to be free of all these considerations. Lo sate mishpat, meaning don't deviate from the din. You have, on the basis of your own prejudices and biases, you have to be careful. You have to be aware of your own prejudices and make sure you make a judgment which is prejudice-free. Lo sakir ponim means you shouldn't be influenced by anybody who comes before you, whether he's more powerful or more knowledgeable or wealthy, or he's a simple man or a poor man. You've got to make sure that the status of the litigants, whether he's a general in the army, or whether he's a member of the cabinet, or whether he is the poorest, simplest man in the world, they all should be getting tzedek, tirdof, on the basis of lo sakir ponim, and of course lo sikach shochad. These principles, of course, were the way in which judges judged throughout human history until the 18th century, and then the values of the Torah. It's important to know when you learn political history. When I studied political philosophy in university, they didn't mention this. They didn't mention that actually the principles of a free society based on an independent judiciary come from Parshat Shoftim in Devarim. That is the origin of them. And indeed, if you look at the histories of people like John Locke and Jefferson and these people, they were all inspired by the Chumash to understand that this is really the gold standard by which one can create a society which human beings can live, where they get justice and fairness and integrity and leman tichye v'yorashtas oretz. And this, I think, is something which we have to reflect on, that the Torah gives us many, many gifts. Part of them are spiritual, purely spiritual, which are Kedusha on Shabbos and Yom Tov, connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But ben Adam lechaveiro, the way we treat other people, the way we judge our interactions with other people, the way we administer justice in our society, that is equally crucial. And this is what Yeshaya Hanavi tells us, that ultimately the Geula will come based on the restoration both of Kedusha and on Tzedek. And that is the golden combination which will bring to us the greatest strength of Klal Yisrael. And this time of year, when we are in Chodesh Elul going towards Rosh Hashanah, the Mishnah itself says that we have to pay extra attention not only to the mitzvahs ben Odom lamokom of Kashrus and Shabbos, but ben Odom lachaveiro, to make sure that we judge others favorably, to make sure that our relationship with other people is judged without prejudice. And on that basis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us, Be'ez Hashem, a year of Geula v'Yeshua b'chein Yirata.